There is a quiet belief many of us carry without ever saying it aloud, that somewhere ahead, there must be a version of ourselves that finally feels safe. Safe from rejection, safe from failure, safe from loss, safe from being ordinary. So we keep moving, keep improving, keep becoming, believing that the next achievement, the next version, the next transformation will finally allow us to rest. This hunger feels modern, but it is much older than modern life. Thousands of years ago, an old story from China imagined someone searching for exactly the same thing. His name was Sun Wukong, one of the most beloved figures in Chinese literature. He begins as a monkey, but not an ordinary one. Curious, brilliant, restless, and deeply unwilling to accept limits. He does not want an ordinary life. He wants mastery, freedom, power. He wants to become more than what he was born to be. So he leaves everything behind and searches for a teacher. And when he finally finds one, he does not ask for peace. He does not ask how to understand suffering. He asks how to rise above it. His master teaches him something extraordinary, the 72 transformations, the ability to become almost anything, a bird, a tree, another person, another form, another possibility. At first, it sounds like freedom, to never feel trapped, to never feel powerless, to never be limited to a single identity. And if we are honest, many of us would ask for the same gift, because hidden inside us is an ancient hope. If I become enough, life will stop hurting. But there is something strange about endless transformation. When you can become anything, it slowly becomes difficult to remain yourself. Modern people have their own 72 transformations. The professional self, the successful self, the endlessly understanding self, the version that never gets tired, the version that never needs help, the version that always knows what to say, and slowly, without noticing, we begin collecting identities the way Sun Wukong collected transformations, hoping the next version will finally protect us from pain. But what if the cage was never our limitations? What if it was the endless need to become someone else? And this is where Sun Wukong's story quietly becomes our own. The 72 transformations were never only about magic. On the surface, they allowed Sun Wukong to become almost anything. A bird, a tree, a stranger, another shape, another possibility. But beneath the mythology, there is something deeply human. The dream was never really about changing form. It was the dream of never being trapped, never being powerless, never hearing life say, "This far," and "no further." And there is something beautiful about that dream. Growth is beautiful. Learning is beautiful. Becoming more capable is beautiful. The danger was never strength. The question is much quieter. At what point does ability stop being something we have and quietly become who we believe we are? Power has a strange effect. It rarely arrives all at once. First, it protects us. Then, it helps us survive. Then, it becomes familiar. And eventually, it becomes identity. This does not only happen to kings or heroes. It happens every day. Someone becomes the dependable one. Someone becomes the intelligent one. Someone becomes the peaceful one. Someone becomes the successful one. At first, these are roles. But slowly, the role hardens. The role that once protected us becomes the person we are afraid to stop being. And one day, We no longer know how to exist without performing it. The strongest prison does not always have walls. Sometimes, it is simply the identity we became afraid to lose. Transformation always looks beautiful from the outside, but there is a hidden cost to becoming whoever the moment requires. Because every version of you needs energy to stay alive. The capable one, the calm one, the wise one, the strong one, the one who never needs help. And slowly, life becomes less about living and more about maintenance. Maintaining expectations, maintaining identity, maintaining the image of who people believe you are. Until one day, you no longer know whether you are choosing these versions or serving them. This is the moment power quietly changes, not into freedom, but obligation. Not, I can become, but I have to. And suddenly, being yourself feels more frightening than performing. This is why stillness can feel frightening, not because silence is dangerous, but because silence removes the audience. There is no role to perform, no identity to maintain, no version of yourself to protect. Only the person beneath all the transformations. And sometimes, meeting that person feels more uncomfortable than staying busy. This was the hidden danger inside Sun Wukong's gift. Not that he learned to become everything, but that transformation began to feel safer than simply remaining. Because if you can become anything, can you still sit quietly with the one who needs to become nothing? Because when becoming starts protecting us from uncertainty, transformation slowly becomes control. As Sun Wukong continued practicing, something subtle began changing. His transformations became faster, more effortless, more impressive. Power was no longer something he occasionally used. It became something he could rely on, and hidden inside that power, there was a promise. If I prepare enough, I will not be surprised. If I train enough, I will not be helpless. If I become strong enough, life will stop catching me unprepared. At first, that sounds reasonable, even wise. Because control rarely introduces itself as fear. It arrives disguised as responsibility, as discipline, as preparation. But quietly, control can become something else. Not the ability to move through life, but the attempt to remain untouched by life itself. Life does not move the way transformation does. It does not become predictable simply because we improve. People leave, plans collapse, bodies change. Feelings arrive without permission. One phone call, one diagnosis, one goodbye, and suddenly, the person holding everything together does not know what to do. And yet, many of us continue trying. We manage schedules, we manage appearances, we manage emotions, we manage conversations. Sometimes, we even try to manage how other people feel. Not because we love power, but because uncertainty feels unsafe. Because underneath control, there is often a much older fear. The fear that if we stop holding everything together, everything will fall apart. There is usually a sentence hidden underneath all of this. Few people say it aloud, but it sounds something like this. If I am careful enough, nothing bad will happen. If I stay strong enough, I can protect everyone. If I never make mistakes, the people I love will be safe. If I do everything right, life will stay inside the lines. And for a while, this bargain appears to work. It creates order, achievement, reliability. Sometimes, it even creates success. But life keeps moving. People change. Bodies change. Love changes. and maintaining certainty slowly becomes a full-time job. Not living, managing, not experiencing, preventing, not participation, but protection. This is the hidden exhaustion of control. It does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like vigilance, watching, checking, preparing, scanning the horizon for danger before danger arrives. Control feels like standing guard at the edge of your own life. You're not living, you're protecting the borders. Because the moment you stop, your mind asks, what did I miss? What is coming? What is changing? What is falling apart? And slowly, life becomes less about experiencing and more about prevention, less about presence and more about defense. This is why control never creates peace. Peace is not the belief that nothing can happen. Peace is knowing that even when life changes, you do not disappear. And perhaps this was the lesson waiting quietly inside Sun Wukong's journey. Strength can protect us from many things, but it cannot protect us from impermanence. And trying to do so is often what exhausts us most. There is a fear few people ever speak about. Not poverty, not weakness, not failure. Something quieter, something harder to admit. The fears of being ordinary, of becoming someone who is not remembered, not admired, not exceptional, not becoming the person we once imagined we were meant to be. Because of that, many people spend years moving, improving, achieving, building, not because they love success, but because stillness feels dangerously close to insignificance. And beneath ambition, there is often a quieter prayer. Please, do not let me disappear. This is where ego becomes very persuasive. It whispers, ordinary means invisible, ordinary means forgotten, ordinary means less, ordinary means you failed. So it gives us instructions. Become more, stand out, be extraordinary, be impossible to ignore. And if you succeed, keep becoming, do not stop, because stopping might reveal you are never enough. But here, ego hides its greatest illusion. Ordinary is not the same thing as meaningless. Ordinary is not the opposite of beauty. And being human was never a failure. This is where Sun Wukong's story becomes strangely familiar. He was born from stone, already extraordinary. Yet even that did not feel enough. He wanted to overcome death. He wanted power, recognition, a place above limitation. Eventually, he wanted a title. The great sage, equal to heaven. Why equal to heaven? Because anything less still felt ordinary. And that may be the deepest wound inside the ego. Not the hunger for greatness, but the fear of being unseen, the fear of being forgettable, the fear of being only a monkey. And so, Sun Wukong continued to learn, to transform, to rise, to become. Because becoming had become its own hunger, not only becoming stronger, but becoming someone impossible to overlook. Until eventually, movement itself became escape. And beneath all that motion, a quieter question waited. If I stop running, who do I meet? Modern life rewards becoming. Become more productive, more attractive, more healed, more optimized, more interesting. And none of those things are wrong until they quietly become conditions for self-worth, until we begin believing, I can rest once I arrive. I can soften once I deserve it. I can live once I become the person I was supposed to be. But arrival keeps moving because ego never arrives. It only upgrades, and eventually, people do not become exhausted from life. They become exhausted from carrying the responsibility of becoming someone. The strangest freedom may not be becoming extraordinary. It may be discovering that ordinary was never the problem, only the fear of losing significance. A wildflower does not bloom to prove itself to the grass. It simply opens. A child does not laugh to become memorable. A quiet room does not apologize for being empty. Dignity was never waiting inside greatness. It was already here before the performance began. And the courage to be ordinary may be greater than the effort of becoming exceptional. Because if becoming someone cannot answer the hunger, then the question was never, how do I become more? The question is, who am I when I stop asking achievement to explain my worth? At one point in the story, something unexpected happens. Son Wukong is sent away, and at first, it feels confusing. He was talented, disciplined, exceptionally gifted. He learned quickly, too quickly. So why would a master send away his most capable student? Because the danger was never the power itself. The danger was disappearing inside the power. There is a moment that can happen to anyone. The moment when what we can do quietly becomes who we believe we are. The moment when ability stops being a gift and becomes identity. Perhaps the master saw something Sun Wukong could not yet see. The transformations were no longer tools, they were becoming shelter. No longer, I can transform, but I must transform. I must continue becoming. I must remain exceptional. And that shift changes everything. Because ability can open the world, but identity built on ability becomes fragile. Now every limitation feels threatening. Every failure feels personal. Every ordinary moment feels unbearable. Growth no longer feels free. It feels necessary. And when becoming becomes necessary, freedom quietly disappears. This is why the deepest lessons in life often arrive through subtraction, not addition. Life removes things, titles, roles, recognition, status, control, the image we worked so hard to maintain, and often we call this loss. But sometimes it is revelation. Look at Sun Wukong beneath the 5 Elements mountain. 500 years, no transformations, no victories, no title of great sage equal to heaven, no audience, no stage, no sky to conquer. Everything he used to recognize himself had disappeared. And beneath the weight of the mountain, life was asking a quieter question. When there is nothing left to perform, what remains? Many people spend years trying to become someone, until life interrupts, a career changes, a relationship ends, children grow, health changes, the old identity cracks, and suddenly there is panic. Not because life ended, but because the person we depended on being began disappearing. Some doors close not because we failed, but because we are not yet free inside what we have learned. This may be why the master let Sun Wukong go, not to reject him, not to shame him, but because some lessons cannot be learned through gaining more. Some lessons begin when there is nothing left to hide behind. Some lessons begin when life removes every place we used to escape into. If there is no stage left to perform, what remains? If there is nothing left to prove, what stays? If life stops asking for another version, who arrives? Freedom was never the ability to become everything. Freedom begins the moment we discover there is something in us that does not disappear when everything else does. Something quieter, something older than achievement, something that existed before praise, before success, before identity. And this is where the greatest transformation finally begins. Not becoming someone else, but returning to the one who was here before the transformations started. Growing up is not learning more ways to become someone. It is slowly losing interest in escaping yourself. For years, we keep moving, keep improving, keep transforming, not because life asked us to, but because staying with ourselves felt harder, and eventually, something becomes clear. The exhaustion was never only from becoming. It came from leaving ourselves again and again and again, until one day, we realize the distance was never between who we are and who we wanted to become. It was between who we are and who we kept abandoning. And the deepest healing is not becoming a better somebody. It is having the courage to meet the one you kept postponing. This was the hidden lesson inside Sun Wukong's journey. Not that transformation was wrong, not that power was dangerous, but that no transformation can answer the question of worth. No achievement can permanently remove the fear of being ordinary. No version of ourselves can finally earn the right to exist, because existence was never something we had to earn. And after carrying so many identities, the invitation was never to become more. It was simply to stop running, to stop negotiating our value, and to discover nothing essential had ever been missing. Freedom was never becoming limitless. Freedom is discovering that there is something in you that remains before success, before failure, before admiration, before identity. Something quieter, something unchanged, something that does not become larger when people praise you, and does not become smaller when they do not. That quiet place was never waiting at the end of transformation. It has been walking beside you the entire time, waiting, not for you to become more, but for you to stop leaving. And this does not mean you stop growing. It does not mean you stop building. It does not mean you stop creating. Life still moves, and so do we. Keep learning, keep building, keep creating, keep loving, but do not ask your becoming to explain your worth. Rivers still flow. Trees still grow. Stars still burn. Not to become enough, not to become worthy, simply because life expresses itself through movement. So, the next time you feel the urge to transform again, pause and ask gently, what am I hoping this next version of myself will finally give me? More peace, more love, more worth, permission to finally rest. And if that is the hope, look carefully, because those things cannot be collected at the finish line of becoming. No achievement can finally hand them to you. No future version can permanently guarantee them. Peace is not waiting for you at the end of success. Love is not hiding inside perfection. Worth does not begin after achievement. Rest does not arrive when you finally become enough. These things must travel with you while you grow, while you build, while you fail, while you begin again. Because the tragedy is not that we keep becoming. The tragedy is waiting until we become enough before allowing ourselves to live. Keep becoming, but do not postpone peace until success. Do not postpone love until perfection. Do not postpone rest until achievement. And do not postpone yourself until some future version finally gives you permission to exist. There is another way. A smaller movement. NEW, notice, embrace. Wisdom, action, notice. Notice the movement before following it. Notice the urgency, the tightening inside the chest, the old voice that whispers, "Not yet, not enough. Become more, become someone." For a moment, do not obey. Simply notice, because what is seen clearly begins losing its power to command us. Embrace, not the role, not the image, not the future self you are chasing. Embrace what is already here. The uncertainty, the longing, the fear of disappearing, the part of you that still believes love must be earned, worth must be proven, rest must be deserved. Do not fix it. Do not improve it. Do not turn it into another project. Simply allow it to be held inside awareness, because what is welcomed no longer needs to hide. Wisdom action, not withdrawal, not passivity, not surrendering your place in the world. Keep learning, keep building, keep creating, keep loving, but let action grow from clarity. Not fear, from expression, not proof, from wholeness, not deficiency. Because there is a profound difference between I create because I am incomplete and I create because life is moving through me. And slowly, something changes. Success becomes enjoyment, not identity. Failure becomes information, not judgment. Growth becomes expression, not survival. And becoming returns to what it was always meant to be: participation, not escape. Life will continue to move, and so will you. But freedom begins when movement no longer decides who you are. The 72 transformations allowed Sun Wukong to become almost everything, but only when he stopped asking transformation to tell him who he was. Did he discover he had never been incomplete? Before you go, I would like to leave you with one question. What transformation have you spent your whole life chasing? And what did you hope it would finally give you? And if you feel comfortable, leave it below. Not as a performance, not as an achievement, just as a human being speaking honestly to another. Because sometimes the beginning of freedom is simply discovering that we are not the only ones who are afraid of being ordinary.
I climbed the mountain with my hands full of names, versions of myself I thought I had to become. One for the world, one for love, one for being strong, one for being enough. I learned to shapeshift like weather over stone, until even my own reflection started feeling unknown. And every new horizon whisper the same old thing: become a little more, become a little more. So I transformed again and again and again, until I could no longer remember what I looked like before the becoming. 72 ways to become someone else, 72 doors leading out of myself. I thought freedom was becoming limitless, but the quiet said no, you were never incomplete. I tried to outrun ordinary mornings, collected identities like lanterns in the dark. became useful, I became calm, I became admired, I became hard. But every transformation asked for another one, and every new arrival moved farther from home, until one silent evening nothing was left to prove. And for the first time, the wind did not ask who I could become, only who remains. 72 ways to become someone else, 72 mirrors reflecting nobody else. I thought peace was waiting at the finish line, but the quiet said no, you were already alive. The wildflower does not bloom to become remembered. The mountain does not rise to deserve the sky, and the sun has never once woken up wondering if it was enough. 72 ways, and still I returned, not to a better version, higher self, not to greatness, not to power, only to the one who was here before all the transformations. And maybe the deepest freedom was never becoming extraordinary. It was finally having the courage to remain.